Well, that is the conclusion to my first intake gasket replacement on a 4.3 liter Vortec V6 Chevy. Apparently they're notorious for that, so everything plugged back in, and it's actually looking a little bit on the neater side now. But yeah, didn't lose any bolts. In fact, I got 8 extra ones for some reason. No, I'm kidding. I replaced the head bolts, or the intake bolts. What a frickin' ordeal. Alright, finally. The JB weld held up for a little bit, but it wasn't doing very good. Oh, with the old, in with the fancy new solid aluminum one. Feels much better. It runs right better. I don't know if you can see that down there. There's a little 6 right about there somewhere. Well, I guess you can't really tell. It's down there. Right there. And you gotta line up your doodad there with the number 6 while your engine is on top dead center. Best to set it like this before you even take that off of there. And usually when you're pulling it off, the gear will make it spin back to about to this thing. So when you put it back on, line it up to that, and it should line up to your little bubble there with the 6 on it. Yeah, this has been quite the adventure. And of course, you'll need a Chevy distributor wrench. Just find some cheap wrenches, and I had 2 of them, so I just welded them together. Well, so far so good. They can tear all the hairs out of the freaking motor block, or engine block. Apparently that can be bad. It's kind of high mileage. No engine light though. Oil pressure. And yeah. Make me laughing. Yeah, so I've been kind of busy lately. Not necessarily doing things I like doing. That's for sure. But trying to get my truck going for winter here. It sure is nice having a 4x4 and getting those nice icy roads to deal with. Last year, that whole week and a half that I had this truck working, that 4-wheel drive was really nice. Oh, come on, you. Yeah, and of course it wouldn't be the same with maybe a proper mechanic special if didn't have that one oddball bolt that just, you know, had to be swapped out for a bigger one. Not sure which hole this goes in, if it went into a different one or what. One of these holes. I'm sure it was this one. No. No, it's not that one. That's the one. That's one like it. So they're all 15mm sockets, except for this one, which goes over here. Here's one of the front ones. There we go. Classic you. Yeah, so last video I kind of planned on going into a whole bunch of stuff as a little bit of a shop update and shop made tools. I wanted to go on about this countershaft pulley that I picked up for a very reasonable price, finally off of eBay. In very good condition. But alas, it kind of got left by the wayside, so It was a pretty long video and I had to cut all that stuff out. Plus all this crap, working with the truck and changing the intake gasket and stuff. It just wasn't happening. I was just, you know, had enough. I was planning on doing a little video on shop-made tools maybe. And maybe you guys all recognize this little guy. This is the center punch I made. This is all shop-made tool. Works really good. And so far, it's been a very valuable tool around the shop. Oh, and there's one right here too, I guess. That kind of got brought up in the last video. It's just a piece of 1-inch aluminum, bored out relatively deep, and that just fits the end of your socket wrench. Well, this particular socket wrench for a little added engine crankability. And of course, my shop-made hammer. This is all made from scratch. 304 stainless body, nylon on one end and copper on the other. Dirty. It gets used like all the time. And this is some kind of cherry handle. But it's been a very useful tool around here as well. And I don't know a machine shop that has never made a fly cutter. So that's a fly cutter I made. Works pretty good. I don't think my lathe just doesn't like it very much. But as long as you're only doing something that's, you know, within its range, it does a very, very nice job. And it's a pretty big radius I got on there too, so it does a very nice, shiny job. We also made a hex block. It's probably not the most accurate thing in the world, since it's just made out of an big old chunk of hex bar. But so far it's only like 2 or 3 thou out on one direction. Now it's probably because I turned it in my 3-jaw, so 3-jaw isn't exactly perfect either. And really all I did was make this and the nut. But it does work very good. I've made several nuts. Well, there was a set screw in there. I think I took it out. This I actually got off Pierre's garage. It's actually not a fail. So I wouldn't go as far as call it a fail. And what this is it's a rivet making block. This was all fly cut as well. Of course, I beat the shit out of it since then. That's what that particular fly cutter. You can see it's actually really nice. This is just 1018 steel. And what happened was, yeah, like as you can see, the drill bit kind of wandered off there. My only problem with it was I didn't have the right size stock to go into the hole. Otherwise, it probably would have worked pretty good. Well, and that was a problem too. Yeah, so I got the whole milling attachment thing too. That's kind of big. I don't really got room for that on the bench. Well, on second thought, I made this milling attachment a while back. And I've made some improvements since then, obviously. And it comes with, here's the vise. And it's kind of, you can flip it any old way and put these jaws wherever you want them. On the bottom, sides, whatever. So that's actually been working really good so far. And it comes with multiple attachments. I'll stick that in the back here. Find some room behind all these random sockets here. And of course the indexing thingy. This has actually come in handy more times than you'd think. And what it does is it utilizes my change gears to index with. Here's the spacer. Since I don't actually know why I needed the spacer, but it's there. Oh, this actually goes this way. That's why it don't make sense. And also the expandrel. Don't forget the expandrel. This is kind of like a upgraded version of you know, like a screw. I've seen a couple people use a beveled screw for this sort of thing. But this is essentially the same thing. It's got a taper on the inside, 3 slots cut in it, and then you just put anything that's 5/8 in inside diameter of 5/8, I guess. You just tighten that screw up. Oop, a nice big screwdriver, and it expands into the mandrel. The mandrel expands into the part, and makes it a really good indexer actually. And I actually cut some bevel gears, which I am not going to get into because it's actually kind of hard to do right now because they're on the lathe. Indexing the thingy, expandrel, and of course a whole bunch of various different tool holders, MT3 tool holders. I even made a collet. And this actually works, believe it or not. I kind of don't use them anymore because I got a whole set of collets. And this is a lathe alignment tool, or like a tailstock alignment bar. It's all cleaned up on here, but this is just where the dog goes on. You put this in between centers and make a fine cut through here and a fine cut through there, and measure with the mic and adjust accordingly. And this I got off Mr. Pete video, I think. But this actually works really good too. I've been kind of holding on to that because it comes in handy. I made this boring bar a while back. It's I tried to heat treat it and she kind of bananaed it out a little bit. So I don't use it very often because it gets kind of jammed in there, but I should have actually used this on the last video and I forgot all about it. But yeah, and I got a 45-degree drill hole through there. And then there's the, yeah, pretty boring. So there's a messy bench full of shop-made tools for you. Whoa, I almost forgot. Totally forgot about the flagship. All my shop-made tools, pretty much. The steady rest. Here, I'll try to get you a better view. It's pretty big, actually. This thing stands up at very near 12 inches tall. Well, 11 and a bit. I don't know if you've seen these videos. That was actually quite some time ago. Oop. Back that guy a little too far. There we go. And it works like, it's very similar to like a micrometer. It's so nice. All the jaws have, or all the fingers have brass sleeves in there, so it really turns very nicely inside there. The locking screws. Every little part on here was made from scratch. I've cleaned it up since I made that video, though, granted. All the pins and screws are all 4140. Mostly is all just mild, like anything with a thread is 4140. Except these, of course. The fingers are 4140. The brass is, well, it's brass, just 360 brass. And the rest is all the knobs and stuff are all just mild steel. All in all, though, this thing works really, really good. I'm very, very proud of this thing. So with the exception of these two tools right here, every tool in my shop has been pretty much a rescue tool. You know, like this thing was in pretty dire straits when I got it. This thing was just totally done. So pretty much everything had to get redone on it. The motor mounts and everything like that. That's not the original motor, obviously, but it's still, this is a really good tool in the shop. And of course, there's Lenore. The old 1936 Atlas 10D. This thing took a lot of work. A lot. Like there was lots of stuff. Like there's the whole traverse gear casing I had to remake. In my own, my own design, I guess. But it was, you work with what you got. If you only have a lathe. You'll have to check out that video where I made that. It's pretty old. It's one of my first videos ever. And then, of course, there's those two gears right there. You'll have to check out that video too if you really want to know what that's all about. That goes back all the way to where I started, pretty much. Now you may have noticed there's something in the chuck right now. That's going to be to replace this thing. Countershaft for the pulley and everything. That's some A2 tool steel. Hopefully that's good enough. Yep, made this little piece too. And yes, I know this is normally a failure point on these old lathes, but I did compensate for that. On this end, where the chuck dog is, the key on it is just held into place by two little brass pins. So if it does crash, I'm hoping that those pins just shear off without damaging too much. And then of course there's the little modification I did to the dials and the extra new handle, which I actually don't really like much just because it gets your fingers all gray. Well, I guess there's the bench, the chip tray. Yeah, I made a lot of, oh, there's the camera mount. Swings nicely out of the way. It's attached to the wall so it doesn't get too shaky. Lamp. So yeah, I'd say 90% of the tools I made I still use. And of course there's some big tools that I'm still working on. I just haven't found the time to work on them yet. We're going to get into this hopefully as soon as possible. That's a big old dovetail slide. Oh. Well, that's about it for this one, guys. Hope we're all caught up. I plan on having this one in the next video, and we'll get that working. Until then, I'll see you next time. Peace out.